A lot of broadcasters are into hyperbole. I am not one of them.
Okay.
But I will say Bryce Young is the greatest freshman quarterback I've ever seen
Just
in my life.
dives right in.
That kid is good.
Well, he's also playing at Alabama.
Well, a lot of guys played at Alabama. They don't look like that in their first game.
He looks great. I was excited about the way that he played. And more so even when you take away all the pieces that they had. You know, I mean, we had never seen an offense have the Outland Trophy winner, the Bolitnikoff Award winner, the Doak Walker Award winner, the all the quarterback awards for Mac Jones, and here they are, and they're just the same. The level of excellence at Alabama is totally unmatched, and I think that's the one thing out of week one. If you were to ask me, like, what was your biggest takeaway at the top of college football, it was that no one's really ready to unseat Alabama. Now, whether they win the national championship or not remains to be seen. Injuries play a factor. You know, they lost a linebacker for the season.
Yeah.
But no one's ready to prepare like they do, to execute like they do. It was interesting. We were talking with Mario Cristobal in preparation for this week's game. And of course, Mario spent time with Nick, and he was an assistant there at Alabama. And he said something very interesting, and I never heard it quite like this. He said, at Alabama, for those players and the staff, every day is a reckoning. And I was like, oh, that's so good. It just like hit home, and you immediately hear that. All of you hear that at home, and it immediately makes sense, right? They play like every day is a reckoning. You know that if you're starting at Alabama, if you're Bryce Young, if you're the starting running back, left tackle, right guard, doesn't matter. Every day is a reckoning, and most likely your toughest days weren't game days.
That's right.
It was just getting to that point to be a starter, and they play like that.
Yeah, Pete Carroll at SC had competition Wednesday, and I remember talking to a couple players. He was like, let me tell you something. Our Wednesday practice is tougher than the Pac.
That's exactly right. I'm just going to hold this. It's going to fly out. I'm just going to hold it right here.
You know what? It's the way I hold a drink.
Don't worry about
it.
Firm,
total control.
There you go.
So I got to say this. It's going to sound hyperbolic, but there are certain things that
I thought he told us he wasn't going to be hyperbole. No, please go ahead. Go ahead.
Certain things travel well,
and certain things don't
in football.
That's Colin. Really good.
Boom. Certain things also wear well over a season.
Okay.
They don't disintegrate. And I would say the number one thing with both is physicality. You can take physicality on the road. You can't always take efficiency on the road. You can't hear the audibles. But you can always win the line of scrimmage. Power wins. When I watch UCLA and LSU, and I look at how soft the Pac-12 is, I don't think it's crazy to say, oh, UCLA, this may not be overly competitive. They may march through the West.
So the three best teams in the Pac-12 are going to be Oregon, UCLA, and Utah this year. I told you last week the best team in LA at the end of the season was going to be UCLA.
You did.
And in large part because of this conversation that we're having. Those three teams are actual teams at the line of scrimmage. Okay, on both sides, offensively and defensively. We all know that Utah has been really good at the line of scrimmage. I know it's not sexy to talk about Utah and Kyle Whittingham, but he's built a program that is at
a power-based program.
And it's at the top of the Pac-12 right now. And UCLA, I just talked with Chip this morning. I tell you, man, the development they had, you know that his first year that they played games with 57 scholarship players.
Oh, no, I know. He broke the whole program down.
He had spring ball with 65 players at practice. So they're finally back to a full complement of scholarship players. They're finally back to the point where they're practicing with 116 guys out there. So they can do things like give good looks from the scout team. They can go good on good and feel confident about their depth. And then they played like it. They had explosive plays in the passing game and the running game. Zach Charbonnet from the transfer portal is transforming their run game. I think that's a guy that, by the way, a couple more performances like that, he's going to be right in the conversation about the Heisman Trophy at UCLA. He's averaging over 10 yards per carry. He's got 4 touchdowns, 100 yards in each of his games. So, you know, UCLA is absolutely a real contender. I got a text from someone within the LSU program on Saturday. You know what it said? Oh my gosh, they look real. That was the text. LSU came out there and they were expecting to see soft West Coast Pac-12 football. And they walked out for warm-ups and they thought to themselves, this is different. This is not what we expected. And then UCLA went out there and hammered them. Do you know they outrushed them by 161 yards? That doesn't happen because you out-scheme somebody. That happens because you physically dominate them at the line of scrimmage. Impressive game.
Yeah, and I think it'll travel well. So let's be honest about Clemson. Alabama loses a quarterback, next guy up. Trevor Lawrence leaves, and they couldn't get first downs.
This is where you're wrong. You need an amendment. Go ahead. Please continue.
Not even done.
I know, but we all know that you're wrong. Let's just continue. Lay it out, and then I'll respond.
Is it Georgia's defense or the fact that Trevor Lawrence is so good, we just don't quite get how good he is?
So DJ made one mistake. DJ Uiagalelei. He made one mistake. JT Daniels did not make the mistake. The question I'm going to pose coming out of the Clemson-Georgia game, I think everyone's going to want to jump off Clemson and that bandwagon immediately. Oh, the offensive line is a concern. And yes, it's somewhat of a concern. But as I watched it again, okay, I'm watching it on Sunday night on my iPad, on the coach's copy. And it just hits me like 8,000 bricks. Who else can do that to Clemson?
Bama.
Bama and Georgia. Who else? Okay, so we're talking about a problem that is 15, 16 weeks away. I don't know what Clemson is going to be 15 or 16 weeks from now. I do know that DJ Uiagalelei misread a defense, and he led a wide receiver across the field against a zone defense when he should have just thrown a spot route. That's it. That is it. Okay, I know he didn't look great, but neither did JT Daniels. Neither did Brock Purdy at Iowa State. Neither did Sam Howell at North Carolina. Yeah. Neither did Graham Mertz at Wisconsin.
It's hard. They don't have a preseason. It's hard.
I just think that Clemson's going to be just fine because you look at their schedule the rest of the way in the ACC, nobody's going to be playing that level against them. They're going to be just fine. So I think giving them that benefit of the doubt is important.
Maybe he made a second mistake, that quarterback, signing with Clemson and replacing Trevor Lawrence. That could be the second mistake.
Well,
that's a lot.
I think you can make an argument, as great as Trevor was, and I thought he was the best quarterback in the sport. He was the easy number one overall pick. But the more impactful guy for that offense and the way that they used him was Travis Etienne.
Right.
They're missing him more than Trevor Lawrence right now.
So is it because Brian...
See how he just goes on? He's just like, okay.
Well, I'm not going to argue. I'm trying to be the bigger man here. Oh. So with Brian Kelly, he turns into a plum. He's bright red. It gets cold in Notre Dame and South Bend. He's just all yelling and screaming. And he had the incident early in his career there, the tragedy. I get it. Man. I get it. It's all bad. But, boy, I'm going to tell you something. Between the academic difficulty, the load they ask of their students, the religious umbrella, it's in the middle of nowhere, it's cold weather. A lot of these northern powers have disappeared when kids now say, oh, my team down here, the warm weather's on TV. I don't need to go up to the cold. I don't need to go to Washington or Nebraska. Or I don't have to go to Notre Dame. I think he's as good a coach as we have outside of Saban. I think Saban's master of the sport. But Brian Kelly... to win on the road is hard in college.
It is.
You see good teams just unravel on the road. LSU last weekend. I think to myself, take Saban out of it. Could I make the argument Brian Kelly's the second best coach in this sport?
I think that he would have to win a game on a huge stage. And I get it. They beat Clemson a year ago.
That's pretty big.
But Clemson came back and throttled them in the ACC championship game. And so in those moments, I think that they have to play better. I don't think you're wrong. I think he's easy in that top 4 or 5 discussion. With what Dabo has done and built at Clemson, it's really hard to put anyone other than Dabo Swinney right there at number 2. And then Brian Kelly is right there. I love what Brian Kelly has built. I really do. And I think that this game against Florida State has been a wild overreaction. Okay, everyone's like, wow, they struggled with Florida State.
They were controlling the game.
They did, and Florida State is way better than they were even last year. So Mike Norvell has done a nice job with that team. Mackenzie Milton has provided them. I think Notre Dame is going to be really good this year. If I'm a Notre Dame fan, I'm actually very excited after that game because of what Jack Cohn did throwing the football.
Yeah, he looked good.
He looked very good, and I think that they'll run it better. Kyron Williams is going to run it for more than 3 yards a carry, right? I just know that they will figure that out. They're real on the offensive line. I'm a fan of Notre Dame. I think that that's a really good program. And I posed this to you this weekend. We had a conversation. Stanford has plummeted, right? Is there room for more than one really tough academic institution to be great at any given time?
It's a very good question. You and I discussed this on my podcast. It's a very good question. As Stanford was great, Notre Dame was down, and then Stanford dips for 3 years and Notre Dame goes up, that there's a limited number of elite kids. I know Stanford football players. I know Notre Dame guys. what they ask of you, it's hard.
That's right.
It is a hard ask for young people. Go practice football. Go do this. Go have a social life. Go do this. I think I don't know the answer to it, but it's certainly worth a discussion, is that you've seen them seesaw back and forth. And when Stanford's good, they get that left tackle and that defensive tackle.
It's about the linemen.
That's what it is. And there's just a limited number of 4-point high school superstars that are great students. I think it's a good.
It's a theory. I got to vet it out, but it's a theory that I'm sensing.
I do 3 hours of theories a day. I don't even vet them out. Okay, so I'll tell you somebody I'm rooting for, because I'm a man of the people, and that's understood in the industry. Is I root for people who have stumbled.
Okay,
Lane Kiffin stumbled. I want to see him do well. Sark had a personal demon, stumbled. I got to be honest. I thought they'd struggle this weekend. I watched Texas, and that was the most clever, multiple formations, multiple sets. And I'm like, he is one more recruiting class. That Texas team, that was not a walkover game.
No.
They were clever.
Louisiana is a good football team.
Yep.
That's number one. You're starting a freshman at quarterback. He looked very good.
Excellent.
And he allowed the best player on the team to be the best player on the field. See, that's something we all know who the best players on the teams are, but sometimes the coaching staff and the game plan don't allow those players to be the best guy on the field, right?
In key spots, too.
Bijan Robinson was the best player on the team and the best player on the field. He touched the ball 24 times for over 170 yards of total offense. They used him in different ways. Yep. I thought that the defense and their ability to put pressure on the quarterback and tackle on the open field was a huge upgrade. And now they have a chance, as good as that win is going against Louisiana, I think this week is even bigger. They get Arkansas. And I know Arkansas is not great, but that's okay. So this is an opportunity to go beat an SEC opponent. I believe it's at Arkansas.
And it's only a 6-point spread. It is, I think, it's in Arkansas. And Arkansas is not a great team. But again, it's SEC territory. It's on the road. It's 80,000
win for them.
It'd be a terrific win.
And I'm with you on Texas. I think Texas has the potential under Sark to come back to a level where they're competing for a conference championship every single year. And if you're doing that, then I think that you can be a playoff team, every other year or so on, depending on where we expand with the playoff. I like what Sark's doing.
Okay, you're doing the Oregon at Ohio State game Saturday at noon. I don't want you to give away too much of your sauce here. I don't like to do that.
No.
It's a great game. I'll be watching.
It's a great game.
Let's go to your top 10 real quick here, Klatt. I don't disagree with any of it.
And I just don't want to overreact after week one, right? So that's why I didn't overreact. Oklahoma fell a little bit because their win against Tulane was not all that impressive.
You got
Ohio State.
A&M a little low.
Maybe A&M a little low, but again, to my point, does A&M do to Clemson what Georgia did to Clemson? Probably not.
Here's another one.
Iowa. Folks, Iowa. Watch out for Iowa. I know how you feel about Iowa. You know what? Hold on for a second. You just sit over there. Iowa, don't let him disparage you. Iowa is for real. 7 straight wins dating back to last year, all against Big Ten opponents by an average of 22.5. They are dogs this week on the road against Iowa State. Iowa wins outright.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Watch out for Iowa.
Yeah, but let's not, it's week one. Bring it down a little. It's still the fake ID of college football.
No, it's not. They are 21. They are in the club legitimately. Listen, Iowa, you go order your Schlitz, okay? You understand? You are totally legal in college football.
I will say this. The fake ID is in the left pocket. They are of age, and they have a driver's license.
They're of age.
The difference is they still have the fake ID in the other pocket. Let's wait in a couple weeks.
Nobody keeps the fake ID in the opposite pocket once you turn 21. It's just a recipe to get caught. Everyone knows that. You cut it up and throw it away. Not that I would know.
Oregon at Ohio State. He's Joel Klatt. Excellent work this week. I think we've bridged something here. We've got something going on. It's a semi-olive branch. And by the way, Chip Kelly, you talked to him this morning. Won't return my calls. Disappointing.
Well, one of us is the voice of college football at this network.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.